Teenage love. Painful breakup. My name is Jeremy, and today I will tell you a horrible story that made the whole Colombia shudder. On July 5, 2018, residents of the Manrique district in the city of Medellin, Colombia, were searching for a 16-year-old girl who had disappeared 7 days earlier. She had said she was going to her best friend's birthday party, but never returned home. Her mother prayed to God for the police to find her, even if she were dead. She could no longer bear the uncertainty of not knowing where her daughter was. On that day, as if by miracle, they called her and informed her family of the whereabouts of the missing girl. Officers, along with her relatives, then headed to that location. Sometime before that, the stepfather of the girl had noticed something behind the house. There were very large tracks, as if someone had been dragged on the ground. He followed the tracks and found a place where a swarm of flies circled. The man tried to get closer, but the horrible smell caught him off guard. Nevertheless, he decided to lift the rocks to see what was underneath. What he saw took his breath away. There was a completely disfigured head. Melany Steisy Amaya was born on February 22, 2002, in the municipality of San Rafael, Colombia. Her parents, William Amaya and Maria Leon, were overjoyed at her arrival. Despite being very young, they had long planned for the birth of their daughter and finally realized their desire. After some time, the family grew with the addition of another child, Natalie. The sisters got along very well with each other and constantly played together from childhood. Melany was characterized by her zest for life and cheerfulness, and her smile was her main distinguishing feature. Additionally, she was very playful. Melany often asked her mother for cosmetics to paint her dolls. Although her parents didn't have a lot of money, they always tried to provide her with everything she needed. In school, Melany was one of the best students and consistently received excellent grades. Over the years, she developed a very strong character. She was proud and always wanted to be right in everything. However, this did not prevent her from maintaining excellent relations with her mother. If they argued, they always reconciled quickly. When Melany became a teenager, her parents separated but maintained a good relationship. Soon after, Maria met Ruben Morales, and they became a couple. After a while, they decided to move in together and settled in the Manrique district in the city of Medellin. Maria's daughters had a great relationship with their stepfather. They considered him their second father. Ruben, in turn, respected their bond with William and always reminded them that he was there to help with their upbringing, but didn't want them to stop seeing their father. By the age of 16, Melany was already a very beautiful girl who loved dressing up and having fun. She had many friends who highly valued her. Around the same time, she discovered her passion for electronic music and decided that she wanted to become a DJ. Since her family supported her in everything, they began saving money to buy a mixer, confident that whatever she set her mind to, she would succeed. However, Melany was never able to fulfill her dream. On Thursday, June 28, 2018, Melany was applying makeup for a party celebrating the birthday of her best friend, Isaac. Despite already having celebrated his birthday a week earlier, they were planning to attend another party scheduled to take place in a nightclub located on Carrera 45 Street in an area known for its nightlife. After finishing getting ready, she told her mother that she was leaving. Her mother asked her to take care of herself and not to come back too late. Melany then got into her Uber and headed to the party. However, she never made it to the destination. When Isaac arrived at the nightclub, he immediately noticed that she was not there. Loud techno music filled the air and the place was crowded. He searched for Melany everywhere but couldn't find her. He started texting her, but she didn't respond. The young man thought that maybe she was with her friend and decided to wait until the next day. Maria woke up at 7 a.m. and noticed that her daughter hadn't returned to her room. Everything was as she left it the night before when she was getting ready for the club. Concerned, she started calling her, but the phone was unreachable. The woman thought maybe the battery had died and Melany was at a friend's place, but it was still strange that she hadn't tried to call her back. Maria then decided to call Isaac. He informed her that Melany hadn't come to the party and that she might be with a friend. After that, she reached out to all of her daughter's acquaintances, but no one knew where she was. Finally, she managed to talk to friends who revealed that Melany did approach the club's door, but didn't go inside. They thought she might have gone to another party. Completely desperate, Maria called her ex-husband and shared the horrifying news. He tried to reassure her, saying that it was still very early, and maybe Melany was sleeping at someone else's house. However, noon came, and Melany still hadn't appeared. Her parents attempted to file a report at the police station, but since it was a weekend, the report wasn't accepted, and they were advised to wait until Monday. Trying to maintain composure, the parents thought that perhaps she had gone to some village to celebrate the long weekend. Maybe she didn't have signal on her mobile phone, and that's why she wasn't in touch. But deep down, they knew it wasn't true. They felt that something terrible had happened. Maria, Ruben, and William began the search for Melany. They went everywhere they thought she could be, in the homes of acquaintances, parks, streets, and the nightclubs she frequently visited. After the initial attempt, they decided to plaster the city with posters containing a detailed description of the girl. The posters featured a photo Melany took on the night of her disappearance. She was dressed in a short blouse, light blue jeans, and white sneakers. The image was accompanied by a description of her physical characteristics: slim, short, with black hair and brown eyes. She had several tattoos, such as a rose on her forearm, a moon on her back, wings, and two distinctive ones: a fish on her right leg covering a motorcycle exhaust burn, and a tattoo below her collarbone with the inscription, "Crazy Life." They handed out flyers to passers-by and police officers on the streets, conveying their desperation and urging immediate official search efforts. The news spread quickly, and all social media platforms were filled with photos of Melany. The weekend passed in the worst possible way. Maria couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about her daughter. Finally, Monday morning arrived, and she went to the police station to file a missing person report. The search was classified as urgent since the girl was a minor. The police checked hospitals and morgues to determine if there was any information about someone matching Melany's name or physical description, but they found no traces of her. The girl's parents clung to the hope of finding her alive. However, as the days passed, her absence became increasingly worrisome until finally, the first lead emerged. A witness came to the police station to provide testimony. He recounted that on the night of June 28th, he saw Melany near a football field, not far from the Manrique neighborhood. He noticed that the young girl was dirty and covered in mud, as if she had fallen. She was accompanied by a young man in baggy clothes, a cap, and large sneakers. Throughout the time she was on the field, she didn't speak, stood in a corner, and seemed completely lost. While these testimonies contributed to the investigation, the situation remained complex. The description of the guy who was with Melany was quite generic, and many of her friends dressed similarly. However, Maria remembered one person, Miguel Angel Naranjo Pareja, her daughter's ex-boyfriend. The young man was 18 years old, and their relationship had ended somewhat unsuccessfully 3 months ago. Maria asked her younger daughter to contact Miguel. He claimed to know nothing about Melany's whereabouts, mentioning that he hadn't seen her in several weeks. After this conversation, Miguel became extremely distressed and stated that he would die if something happened to her because he still loved her deeply. However, a few days later, new testimonies emerged that contradicted Miguel's statements. Several people claimed to have seen them together near the club that evening. They also mentioned that he was very drunk. Following these statements, officers began considering Miguel as the prime suspect in the girl's disappearance. They obtained a search warrant for his home but found no traces of Melany. Once again, the police were back to square one, with no clue about the whereabouts of the young woman. On July 5th of the same year, Maria woke up in complete distress. She couldn't believe that her daughter was still missing. She prayed to God to bring her back, whether alive or dead, as she could no longer bear the uncertainty. Her prayers were answered, and on that same day, Maria received a phone call. However, what she was told did not bode well. The number was unknown, but without hesitation, the woman answered on the other end. A voice came through, instructing her to stop searching for her daughter because she was already in another world and buried on a hill called El Calvario. Without further questions, the person asked Maria not to report him to the police, as he hadn't spoken earlier out of fear. After the call ended, she hurried to the police station, and along with her husband and 2 officers, went to the specified location. She also warned all her acquaintances to help in the search. The area was vast, with many entrances and overgrown with bushes. To reach the hill, they had to overcome numerous steep stairs and pass by squatter houses. Therefore, it was decided to split into several groups to cover the territory more quickly. Reuben went to a section overgrown with bushes behind one of the houses. He noticed large tracks on the ground as if someone had been dragged. Following the path, he came across a place where a swarm of flies circled, and a strong odor lingered. He took a stick and started moving stones on the ground. Under one of them, Reuben saw something horrifying, a human head. He immediately called the police who were conducting the search nearby. Initially, they thought it might not be a human, as this area was known for discarding animals. They continued moving stones and saw blood. Finally, they managed to get a good look at the face. It was severely disfigured, but it was evident that it was a human head. Maria couldn't stop crying. Until the last moment, she refused to believe it was her daughter, but when they uncovered the body, all doubts were dispelled. Despite the body being in a state of advanced decomposition, the tattoo on the girl's chest was visible. She was completely undressed. Her mouth was open and filled with dirt. All her teeth were knocked out, and one eye had popped out. In addition, there was something very strange. The person who buried her had covered her with calcium oxide. The body was exhumed by a team of forensic experts and taken to the Institute of Forensic Medicine and Criminology. A few hours later, the experts confirmed that it was none other than Melany Steisy Amaya. Although traces of all kinds of violence were found on her body, the cause of death was mechanical asphyxia. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, it was impossible to determine whether she had been sexually assaulted. The only thing they could confirm was that she had been severely beaten. Melany's relatives were devastated. The hope of finding her alive was gone, but they could still seek justice for the heinous crime committed against her. The media reported the discovery, and all eyes turned to Reuben. Some considered the fact that he found the body alone as making him a potential suspect. However, the residents of Manrique had a different opinion. They knew Melany had no enemies, but understood who might wish her harm. Everyone was aware that her relationship with Miguel ended on bad terms, and he was known to be a rather cruel young man. Meanwhile, the young man continued sending messages to Melany's relatives, expressing his deep sorrow for her loss and stating that he would do everything possible to find her. However, no one believed him anymore. A furious mob of neighbors gathered at his home, intending to lynch him, taking advantage of the situation. The police took him to the police station, assuring him that they would ensure his safety. However, the real purpose was to interrogate him. He provided statements quickly, asserting his innocence and expressing great confidence in his words. As there was no evidence against him, he had to be released. Almost simultaneously, charges against Reuben were dropped. There was no evidence pointing to his involvement in the murder. Still considering Miguel as the main suspect, investigators began to find out what kind of relationship he had with Melany. According to people close to the girl, the couple met in 2016 when she was 14 and he was 17. Melany organized a party with her best friends and hired a DJ, which turned out to be Miguel. She was enamored with him, and the next week they started chatting. After a while, a relationship developed between them and the couple went everywhere together, including outings with friends. Miguel was liked by everyone the girl knew. They noticed that he treated her with respect and that he loved her very much. Over time, the young man began to spend more and more time at Melany's house, and he became an integral part of the family. Maria claimed that Miguel had problems with his mother, and the young man told her that she often beat him and sometimes left him hungry. In the first months of living together, everything was wonderful. They were closer than ever, but over time, the relationship between the teenagers began to deteriorate. Miguel and Melany constantly argued, and the boy was most bothered by the fact that the girl liked to dress provocatively. She was so upset by their quarrels that she decided to drop out of school and started engaging in something she had never done before, using psychoactive substances. It took Maria some time to realize this and talk to her daughter. She said she only did it a few times, always in the company of Miguel. This caused the young man to lose the trust and respect of the family, and since then, the situation has only worsened. The arguments became brutal and escalated into physical violence. Miguel constantly abused Melany, leaving marks on her neck and arms. One day, he beat her so severely that the entire room was covered in blood. Maria tried to help her daughter, but Melany asked her not to interfere in their relationship. She begged her to allow them to continue living together. Her friends were also concerned. They noticed her spirit fading, and they saw her crying every day. After 2 years of being together, on May 23, 2018, the young couple had their final and extremely cruel argument. Melany decided to break up with Miguel for good and kicked him out of her house. However, the young man didn't accept it. He began to stalk her and follow her everywhere. Then Ruben decided to file a report with the prosecutor's office stating that his stepdaughter was in danger and requested a restraining order. Unfortunately, this measure was never implemented. Over the next few months, Miguel continued to search for Melany. He swore to her that if she gave him another chance, he would do things differently. However, she never agreed. And without any police assistance, the young woman tried to go about her life as usual until a terrible event occurred on June 28th. Receiving more evidence about the relationship between the young individuals, the police investigated Miguel's criminal history. They found that despite his young age, the guy already had encounters with the police. Records indicated that he had assaulted his mother, siblings, and sisters. Additionally, they obtained a statement filed by Ruben several months ago and testimonies from one of Melany's acquaintances. This young man stated that Miguel had told him that if he found out she was dating someone else, he would kill her. But that wasn't the most shocking revelation. The person who called Maria decided to disclose his identity. He was a relative of the young man, living with him in the house located in the Granasol area, very close to where Melany's body was found. He recounted that on June 29th, around midnight, he saw Miguel coming into the house with a shovel in hand, and his shoes were dirty. A few minutes later, the young man started a bonfire and began burning clothes and cosmetics. Afterward, he took a long shower. Gathering all the evidence, on July 10th of the same year, officers obtained an arrest warrant for Miguel. The young man voluntarily appeared at the police station where he was charged with murder under aggravating circumstances. However, he denied the charges and, with a strange smile on his face, pleaded not guilty. After 6 months of prolonged legal proceedings, Miguel decided to enter into a plea deal. He agreed to the charges that identified him as the perpetrator in exchange for a reduced sentence. Right after that, he recounted the final hours of the young woman's life. On June 28, 2018, Miguel saw Melany in front of the nightclub where Isaac's birthday was supposed to be celebrated. He approached her to talk, but quickly noticed that she was exchanging messages with another guy, triggering uncontrollable jealousy in him. He couldn't believe she already had another suitor, and an argument ensued, escalating into a brutal fight. Miguel struck her forcefully, knocking her to the ground. A few hours later, they went to a football field, where the altercation continued. At some point, he grabbed her by the neck and strangled her until she died. When he went to hide the body, he sprinkled lime on her, having seen in a movie that people used it to eliminate the smell of decay. Miguel then returned home, burned the girl's clothes and belongings. At the end of his testimony, the young man expressed satisfaction that he had acted under the influence of prohibited substances. His account was somewhat vague, and Miguel refused to specify where he buried Melany and how exactly he concealed the body. Officers speculated that after leading her to the football field, he convinced her to go and talk alone near the spot where he later buried her. They were only certain of two things. Miguel was guilty of the girl's murder, and his motive for the crime was jealousy and obsession. Psychological tests indicated that he was aggressive, possessive, and volatile. However, they also established that at the time of the crime, he was sane, so he had to face trial. On Friday, January 18, 2019, nearly 7 months after the girl's murder, the first hearing took place. Miguel was found guilty of the charge of murdering the woman under aggravating circumstances and was sentenced to 34 years and 8 months of imprisonment. After the jury announced the verdict, he apologized to Melany's relatives and the community. Although the girl's family was satisfied, they all stated that they would never forgive him. If you found this story interesting, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to share your opinion in the comments. This was Jeremy. See you in the next video.